Crossing the Antler River just east of town is Tuesday afternoon. That's Viterra's Inland Terminal. It's July 19th, 2016, and this is Carnduff, Saskatchewan. Looking back down Highway 18 at the terminal at Saskatchewan Wheat Pool, built in 2009, now Viterra. And we're reminded that the price of oil is less than half of what it was 3 years ago. Barrel of crude. The break-even point of the View Field oil field in southeastern Saskatchewan here is $62 a barrel, so the fields are quiet. So these equipment dumps are pretty full if you want to lease anything like drilling rig or dog house or twin steer Peterbilt. Boy, that'd be fun to romp around in. Or perhaps 27, 26 Ford coupe on wooden wheels, that one. I'm not sure what that one is in the foreground, that pickup there. Nice pair of late 40s. And a 1951 Studebaker Commander. You can tell by the hood ornament. Yow! Don't know what that one is. Couple of nice coupes. A 47 Dodge. Farther west on Railway Avenue at the corner of Broadway is Carnduff's last elevator, the core of it, the old Northern from probably the 1890s. The town office and post office are down that way. On the corner where the co-op is stood Carnduff's first general store, J.B. Preston's, up in 1891. The old red brick building here is likely J.H. Taylor's store, or perhaps Smith and Hamilton Hall. The two-story wood-built Queen's Hotel stood here, built by E.J. Huxley as the Elliott House in 1892, where the igloos now stand, built in 84. Along with the Massey Harris dealership and the Carlton restaurant, the Queen's burned up in 1923. On the corner here, A.H. Fools Hardware store, built around 1898 of Fieldstone, better known as Elliott's. The white building is the Merchants Bank and the Avonmore Hotel, dating from 1909 beyond. J.B. Preston's burned down in 1956. He was the first mayor of the town of Carnduff. Reed Livery and Feed were along here somewhere. I don't know whether they were behind that old false front or not. Macomb Auto was a long time business in town, as is Patterson from 1920. This is the west side of Broadway, the main street. Marshall Wells store stood along here, a pool hall and with a bowling lane. J.J. Pearson, butcher, Grabo and Glazier hardware store, this old place. The Independent Order of Odd Fellows built this hall in 1916. Served as the town's cinema for a while and a theater, presently a store. Before that, the famous Red Onion boarding house stood here. Across Pacific Avenue is St. Andrew's Presbyterian, built in 1903. The United Church from 1925. This is Treaty 1 territory, signed in August of 1871 between Chippewa tribes of Indians and Swampy Cree and representatives of Her Most Gracious Majesty. This was tall grass prairie and through here, really rich sandy loams, dark brown, blacks, obviously productive. And into this area, starting in 1882, came newcomers with plows, either from the end of Steele and Delorme, Manitoba, or from Souris, up the old Melita Trail. Almost from the get-go, crops are really abundant in this neighborhood. Grace Methodist, built in 1901. With the Union of the Churches in 1925, the congregation from the Methodist churches moved across to St. Andrews, and this became a redundant building, so it was eventually turned into the town theater. It lost its tower by 1955. You can see the old Baptist church down there on Pacific Avenue. On the corner here stood the Smith Block, 2 stories brick built in 1903. There was an opera house upstairs, and in the corner office was the Merchants Bank until they finished their own building in 1908. Billy Corbett had his farm implement dealership along here someplace. Frank and Rose Crozier built the hotel, Avamore, in 1909, and they ran it right through to 1950. Ooh, a park. Traffic on Highway 18, and the long-promised rails of CPR's Estevan sub hopped down from Brandon, Manitoba. Services commenced through here. In February of 1892, the station stood where the Carnduff sign is down there at mile 97.1 from Kemnay on the main line. A little gambrel roofed affair, built who knows when, but replaced in 1923 with a standard Western Lines A3 was sold off in 1973. This is known as John Griffin Park, when the monument was dedicated on July 16, 1933, the same day that the pool was open. Quite a Depression-era project for Middletown. It's been here ever since. Used to be Chautauquas held on this property back in the 20s and 30s, traveling shows. The band show was built in 1980. There was a little red barn raised at a B in 1975 that's on the property somewhere. Looking due east down Highway 18, Manitoba is 20 miles that away, and off to the right the international boundary is 12 miles away, North Dakota. The Bakken Extra Formation is about 3 kilometers below our feet. Therein you'll find highly volatile crude oil, just waiting to be pumped out. I think there was 7 elevators built at Carnduff over the years, 5 standing at any one time. This is slated for demolition soon. Where the flag is the post office. John Porter Carnduff established the post office of Carnduff in 1884 in the parlor of his farmhouse a couple of miles to the west, where a little community gathered. He was obliged to move, and the CPR decided this was the town site. This used to be a White Rose service station back in the day. And back downtown, looking at St. Andrews. J.P. Carnduff and his brother Richard are among the earliest arrivals in this region in May of 1882. Ended up farming adjacent to James Balmer Preston, a future merchant and mayor. The cornerstone from across the street. On Pacific Avenue over on First Street East is the Baptist Church that was built in 1907. It's been the Associated Gospel Church since 1964. Also on First East, the detachment headquarters since 1960. On 4th Street, this building replaced the second school, a 2-story, 6-room edifice built in 1906 just to the west of downtown. Incorporated as a village on March 29, 1899, Carnduff became a town on August 2, 1905, a month before Saskatchewan was declared a province. On the very south side of town, on Antler Avenue, is the new school, completed in 2004, K-12. The first school was kitty corner of the Baptist Church behind the Methodist Church. And the proud home of the senior ladies softball team, the Steelers, the Western Canada champs in 2001 and 2011. The 2016 population of Carnduff is 1,100 folks. On 2nd Street over by Souris Avenue, the Catholics built St. Jude's in 1967. The post office building was erected in 1954, and just off to the right beyond the yellow building there is the municipal building, shared between the rural municipality of Mount Pleasant No. 2 and the town since 1966, cementing Carnduff as the headquarters of the RI. Not only did I miss St. James Catholic, but I also miss St. James Anglican, built over on First Street East, just north of the Baptist Church there in 1907. It survives as a house. Birthplace of E.C. Manning, the Premier of Alberta from 1943 to 1968. Carnduff, Saskatchewan.